Alrighty, we have a new coach on board, and we wanted to bring him on the podcast today. And I've got some good dirt because your girlfriend is one of my athletes, so I'm actually excited to jump into some of this. James, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Early morning,
yeah, I know. So we usually do these podcasts at like, I don't know, Chris, 11, 12, something like that. We decided to do it early because we have some meetings today.
Yeah, it's 8 a.m.
And, of course, I'm the one that's always, or I say, I'm usually on time. Today, I was late because school buses got in my way. This is the worst time of the year. School just started here in Georgia, and
it really is brutal.
I'm being serious. I had to stop every single time, and of course, you can't go past them because now they all have cameras. Not that I would.
Why does the other side of traffic have to stop for the school bus? On the other side of the median.
Yes,
I get that you stop the people who are coming for the. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But the people on the other side of the median also have to stop?
I think that if there's a divider, you don't have to.
That's what I'm saying.
Have you noticed on Alpharetta Highway, so for those that are listening, it's a 4-lane highway with a median, but people still stop on both sides of the highway, and that road can get busy. It's the weirdest thing. I don't think you have to do that. Maybe someone can comment. Anybody in traffic control?
Yeah, I don't know.
A police officer, maybe?
All I've noticed being here is that the red lights take like twice as long as they do
it's pretty bad
north, and it's nuts. Like, there's not even really that bad traffic. It's just like you get stopped at a light and you're there for 3 or 4 minutes. It's just waiting.
And the timers are off too.
Yeah.
It's like 2 minutes on one way, and then it's only 30 seconds on another.
Yeah, we noticed like immediately when we got here, and that was like the worst thing ever.
Yeah. There was one that would never go green. Coming from an old condo to here, if you sat there in the morning at a certain time, it would never go green. And so I just finally started running it. Look both ways and go.
Georgia traffic, baby.
It's like, that's a stop sign.
For those that come to our facility ever, if you fly in, give yourself an extra hour. I always tell, when we do camps, we always tell people like, hey, look, it's going to take an hour and a half to drive here, even though it should be like 25 minutes because of traffic. So James, how long have you been on board?
Let's see. We started in May, I think.
Okay. Awesome. So
been here since August.
Yeah. James has been an athlete with Adam Rogers for
almost 2 years.
2 years.
About 2 years.
Yeah. Went through the mentorship program with Max, which is obviously a pretty awesome experience. I've kind of been on the back end of that. And then you were hired as a coach. So we want to dive into kind of your experience, your background, talk about how you got into CrossFit. So that's kind of where I wanted to start. Is it's the cool thing I think about our coaching staff is everyone has some tie to CrossFit. But most of us didn't start in the CrossFit world. I was football and then strength conditioning, did a lot of speed and agility work with high-level athletes, and then kind of fell in love with the CrossFit model. Kyle Ruth was a swimmer, and Adam was a soccer player and an engineer, and then became a CrossFit coach. And I could keep going on.
No pressure, James. No pressure.
Yeah. What are you? What are you, James?
I read Lord of the Rings.
So I just am interested. You don't have to dive deep into the background, but like, what got you into CrossFit in the first place, and then kind of like, how'd you fall in love with the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I was coaching outside of the CrossFit world well before I got into CrossFit.
Yeah.
And I was in like personal training for a little bit. I found some gymnastics coaching, which is where kind of I got a big part of my background was in the gymnastics style of things. So I was coaching gymnastics for a couple of years. And then it wasn't until my senior year of college that I had to do like a long-term internship. And I was originally looking for a Ninja Warrior gym because that's what I wanted to do at the time. I was trying to go on the show and everything and, compete.
Do they have gyms proper, or is it like gyms that cater to people doing that?
They have like full-on obstacles in them. It's like
brought to you by Ninja Warrior Gym?
It's not like the brand of it.
Yeah,
it's just like local ones that it's kind of like, I guess it's like CrossFit, but you can't like officially use the name. But everyone just calls them a ninja gym. So I was looking for that, and I found one nearby my college, so I was able to do it. And in that gym, there was also a CrossFit gym.
It's kind of how it usually works, right?
Yeah. So it was like they were trying to like build up this CrossFit gym, and then over time, I just slowly started doing more and more CrossFit stuff, and then I just kind of like stuck with that. And
what did your ninjas think?
How dare you?
Yeah,
you're cheating on us. It's funny you say that. We were in Boulder. This was a couple months ago, meeting with a company, and I at the hotel, we were just sitting there talking, and this guy walked up, and I guess he recognized the shirt or something like that. He was a parkour guy, and he's been to the World Championships, which I didn't know was a thing.
Boulder has like a big parkour, rock climbing.
He explained it all to me, but they also had a CrossFit gym, so he knew of us from the CrossFit gym in there. But this dude, I mean, he was like the coolest guy ever. He's been to World Championships like 6 times. He was explaining like the process and how you do it and the freestyles and all that. But in my mind, it's probably completely different with Ninja Warrior, but it still seems very similar.
It is similar.
Yeah. So what was the first CrossFit workout that you did? And then was it that, hey, I did it, I loved it, now I want to be a part of this? Or was it more on the coaching side of things?
The first workout I did was a variation of an open workout, I think. It was like a ladder of like either a power clean or a power snatch and handstand push-ups, I think.
What was that for? 15.3 or something like that.
Yeah, it was one of those. I mean, it was like years before I started,
so
I didn't really know what it was when I did it. I just found out after that it was. And it was handstand push-ups, which I like to do.
Yeah.
And the person who run me through it like knew that, so that's why he picked that workout. So I was kind of interested in like getting into it before I even did the workout. I was like in a strength and conditioning world. Like I figured I would be pretty good at it or something like that. And I would just kind of be able to come in and do some good stuff in CrossFit. So I don't know if I was necessarily hooked on that workout, but it was just like the process as a whole over the first like month or so, just coaching, doing workouts, whatever, just building into it is where I kind of just got comfortable doing CrossFit on a regular basis. And it just it became more of a routine thing rather than like I was hooked into it, I guess. And then I was eventually hooked on like the competitive side of it, of like wanting to get better at X skills, like learn all the new things, like get stronger, all that kind of stuff. And that's what kind of kept me coming back on that front.
Yeah, that's what got me excited as a coach. You know, coaching football or speed and agility, strength, whatever. Not that the systems are basic, because they're not by any means, but it's the same thing over and over again. You know exactly what you're going to do with a quarterback or with a running back. And, you know, here are the things that they need to get good at, and they're doing the same thing over and over again to be able to do that skill. In CrossFit, there are all of these skills that you have to master. And like mastery, or as close to mastery is the name of the game with all of those things, but then they throw new stuff at us all the time. So then there's always a new problem to fix. And I love that process of, as coaches, we have to always figure out new things. And then obviously as the science changes too, like we're thinking about maybe strength and conditioning or energy system training differently. And then it's like, okay, how does this tie into the skills? But then also it's so much more different than other sports in performance, because the performance metrics change from year to year based on the test, as opposed to, again, you know, running a 40-yard dash that's never changed in the combine. So we know exactly what we need to do for that athlete. And I think it's probably similar to the way that you're thinking about it.
Yeah. And I think the thing I like most about CrossFit is like the new skills kind of thing. Like I enjoy learning skills. I enjoy figuring things out and how to efficiently do them, whether it's for the sport or just like for a person. So when I was coming in, it was like there was all these new things that I hadn't really tried. Like I had done a lot of gymnastics stuff, but not like in the CrossFit way. So like kipping muscle ups was different than just like doing a strict muscle up.
Sure.
So it was like figuring those things out was like kind of just a addicting process to me.
What do you think about kipping at first? Were you anti?
Oh yeah, big time for a while. Before I even like, I had kind of been okay with it before I started getting into CrossFit, but I did not like the fact that people were kipping. I remember.
And now you're a flail master?
Yeah. And I remember when I was big into like Ninja Warrior stuff, I remember watching the games in 2013 or 14. It was on ESPN, and it just like came up on TV, and I remember sitting there with my dad and being like, what the heck are all these guys doing, just flailing around on this pull bar? This is so dumb. And then now I wish that was
Have me, you gone back to your dad and said, hey, I figured it out, dude?
Dad.
I have converted. I got my dad to start doing CrossFit.
Oh,
so.
nice.
That's awesome. I want to actually talk about him because he has a cool background as well. But on that note, this is kind of a hot take for everyone. You can clip this one here. I actually still think kipping is really stupid. And in all honesty, for most people, and people are going to be like, wow, you're a CrossFit coach. Just for health and longevity, in my opinion, and CrossFit would push back on me on this, for most people, unless they have the requisite strength, it doesn't make much sense. Now, for performance in the sport of CrossFit, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like you're finding a pathway to be able to do a movement 100 times for butterfly pull-ups, let's say, or toes to bar, whatever it is, as opposed to maybe only 15 or 20 times. Or like a really good athlete could only do 30 strict pull-ups. They could do, again, 70 or 80 unbroken chest bar pull-ups. So it's just a hard balance for me to be like, at what point do we draw the line of telling this 50-year-old, like, hey, man, if you're not doing this for performance, you probably shouldn't be doing kipping movements. And that's probably where you were at.
Yeah, that's where I was definitely at before I got into any gymnastics stuff. As I got into gymnastics, I kind of started to realize, like, you can do a lot of kipping, like, very controlled, and it actually is super helpful. Like, just doing, like, an actual kipping pull-up, not a butterfly pull-up, like the true C-kip, is like actually helpful for building power in your hips, like making sure you have core strength in your hollow body, like getting all of those kind of things and building shoulder girdle strength, like all that stuff. Like, you can actually do it very well with kipping. I think the problem is, like you're saying, is a lot of people who are just everyday people are trying to be like, I want to do as many butterfly pull-ups as I can. And it's like, that's probably not the best way to approach it. Like, let's learn some like basic structures first. And if you want to do that every now and then, go for it. But we probably don't ever need to do, like you said, 100 butterfly pull-ups or anything like that.
The other thing too is, and you alluded to this, but like if you don't have good position or good, you're not doing the kip well, then you're still at risk.
You're not getting the benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So and 2013 is a perfect example of that. How many guys, even at the games, or girls, were butterflying or kipping well?
Yeah.
Like everyone,
it just looks like it. Like if you look at somebody like kipping with like what you call like a perfect position of like gymnastics, where they're like keeping their legs together and doing all that, like versus what people are doing when they're just like flailing, it like looks totally like different. A different movement.
Yeah, exactly. So then you're still even putting a high level performer at risk. But people have gotten so good at those that I don't think it's an issue for, again, high level performers. Let's jump into the gymnastics side, because I think this is like something that's really interesting, that you're humble. And so you don't talk about it that much, but it is cool to kind of hear the background. So I'd love to hear how you got into the gymnastics, but the one thing, just to kind of set the audience, you're like a master at handstands, right? Or at least you've studied quite a bit, and you have some positional things that you could probably give to your athletes and then obviously our audience as a whole. So I'd love to kind of hear how you got into that, and then let's dive deep.
So I got into the handstand stuff first. So I forget when it was. It was probably like my first year of college. I just kind of like wanted to learn how to do a handstand, and I didn't know how.
Hold on. At what point were you just sitting on the couch eating a Dorito?
I must have like seen it on Instagram or something, and just been like I had worked out for a long time before this. Like I wasn't just like coming off the couch.
I haven't done anything my whole life. I want to do a handstand.
I've been working out since like freshman year of high school. Okay. Like I've been doing that.
Was this just doing a handstand? Or was this walking? Or
I purely wanted to learn how to like hold a static, like perfect straight handstand.
Off a wall.
Like, yeah, just freestanding, just like learn how to do that. I just thought it was cool. So I didn't really know how to do that. So I just started like looking on the internet and like looking for things to do. And I got kind of into like yoga basically. So it was yoga with a focus on hand balancing. So a lot of regular yoga, like if you go to your class, like you generally don't see those kind of things where people going into handstands and doing all these crazy things. You might see like one or two arm balances.
Save it for a finisher at the end. Everyone else, y'all could just remain seated.
Yeah, just watch. So you usually don't see that, but I got really interested because like that is actually like a big part of yoga if you get into really the physical side of it. So I started following like these people on Instagram who do those kind of things. Like they sometimes put out videos and like how-tos and stuff like that. So I started just like learning as much as I could during that time. And then I just kind of like converted like full on where I was like working out, lifting, doing like random stuff before. I think I spent 2 to 2.5 years where I just did yoga every day, multiple times a day. And I didn't do anything else for fitness.
Wow.
I mean, it worked well. Like I was still very healthy. And
when you say yoga, though, like what does that mean compared to in my head?
Crystals or
no?
In my head, it's like I'm just doing some light static stretching.
So there was some of that where I was like focusing on meditation, stretching, like because there's a lot of mobility involved with the stuff I was doing. But a huge part of it was like actually training, where I was training like the handstand. So I would do. Because I was a person in college that had way too much time in my hands, I would do like 2 sessions where I would just go in. First one would just be like a normal, like what you would expect from yoga, like stretching, just like moving around. The second one was like a handstand session.
Yeah.
And then slowly they kind of merged. As I got better at handstands, they were easier to like, I could meditate while doing those kind of things.
Wow.
So it was like they kind of just melded together.
What's the time frame on that?
On like how to get
until you were like super comfortable on your hands.
So I went from no handstand at all to being able to hold for about 30 seconds to a minute in like 3 months.
That's pretty fast.
But I was practicing twice a day, every day for like hours. Like this was over the summer where I was like, I just had too much time on my hands.
Yeah.
So
I would say that that's faster than the average person
fast.
for sure.
It was definitely fast. And I think of it more as like the number of hours you're putting in versus like the amount of time. Because people always ask me that, like, how long does it take to get a handstand? It's like, how much time are you willing to put in?
Per day, like consistent frequency and total time in the day,
yeah,
right?
Because I was literally doing it for like 3 hours of just
Do you like being upside down?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of...
Was it weird at first?
At first, you get like a lot of like head rush and like, you know, what you'd expect, like blood flow to your head, and it's like weird, but your body kind of just like gets used to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to lie. Half the reason I don't like doing CrossFit is anytime hand stuff pops up. It's like, even if I got, it's not like, hey, you suck at it. So it's like, I don't want to do it because I'll do other things that I suck at. Just, I don't want to be on my fucking hands. Yeah. We just take that out of the sport.
Some
push
people
back
don't
on
like
me
it.
here.
Yeah. I mean, it can be very uncomfortable.
I mean, I think there's a lot of benefits to it, even just health wise.
Yeah. Hit it up. Yeah. Let's hear it.
I mean, like just being upside down, like just like letting your body learn to regulate your blood flow like that is just a whole different thing. So like if you can get to a point where you can like breathe, meditate, and just relax while you're upside down, like when you're doing things in CrossFit that are like you're kipping handstand push-ups, your handstand walking, like those things just become way easier. Like you can breathe while you're doing them. You know, you're not coming out with this head rush. You're just standing up and you feel kind of normal. Like it takes time to get to that, but you can definitely build your body in a way that, you know, you just get used to it. And then like your wrist strength changes a lot too. So like a lot of people wear like the wrist wraps or like straps so that whenever they're doing like jerks and things like that, I've never really had to do that. And I've never really had any kind of like wrist issues because, I mean, your wrists aren't meant to like, they're not made to hold that much weight over time, over that period of time, but they can be trained just like your ankles are to like just hold yourself up. So over time, like they might be a little bit sore at first, but they just kind of like get stronger. Yeah, you adapt. So like I've never really had to do anything that's like wrist wraps or anything like that or wrist treatments because they were just so resilient to that kind of stuff. So it's just a different way to approach it, I guess. And you can probably get to those benefits without doing handstands, but that's just kind of how I like to do it.
So let's walk through like the points of performance. Someone's listening and they're in the CrossFit space. Let's just say that they can do a handstand hold, they can handstand walk, they can kick up and do kipping handstand push-ups, but they're just not good. They're what Chris is saying. Like I kick up and my eyes turn blood red. I can't breathe in that position. I don't feel comfortable. My shoulders and my wrist ache after. Like what are the things that they need to be thinking about as they start that process of trying to refine their handstand position?
Do you mean just the position in general?
Positions in general, and then we can walk through some performance stuff too.
So the way I kind of teach people is to pretty much always do a wall walk on your way up to a handstand if you're working on your position. If you kick up to the wall like you would for like a handstand push-up, it like automatically puts you in an arch position, like no matter what. So it doesn't matter how close you get to the wall. So if you walk up, you're just going to be in a better like hollow body position. From there, in terms of like just getting used to the positions, I always kind of focus on putting your head down so like your nose is touching the wall so that you can then
tuck the chin slightly.
Tucking your chin a little bit. And then putting yourself in like a hollow body shape, which most people should know what that is, but it's like that hollow C of your core. And then just focusing on your breathing, because being able to breathe is going to like regulate all those other things. If you can't get air to your brain or your muscles or whatever, then that's when you start to feel panicky. You start to get that blood flow like stuck in your head. Like you can't regulate your body well. So if you focus on like deep inhales, deep exhales, you'll actually be more comfortable and you'll relax.
How slow is that process? So when you started, like when you're saying focus on the breathing, you know, how did you start that for yourself?
So I basically just did that where I was like, I'm going to do 3 sets of 30 seconds upside down with a little bit of rest. And just over time, progressive overload, you just build on it. So it turned into eventually like 3 sets of 2 minutes over a really long period of time. You kind of have to just regulate it based on either your coach or, your own little progressions. You can just add 5 seconds every week and see how that goes. So that's kind of how I would usually train it. I think I lost my train of thought before you asked that question.
Step number one, go into a wall-facing position.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best place to start if you're comfortable enough getting on your hands. So then we would be full body weight wall-facing position. Your feet are still on the wall. Step number 2 would be tuck the chin, kind of get the nose as close to the wall as comfortable. Eventually get it to where you're pretty neutral there. Step number 3 would be learning how to get into the arch position. This is one of the things, though, that I find is very challenging for someone who has either a bad overhead position or actually a bad pelvic position. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people in the sport of CrossFit that get in and they have like legit lower cross syndrome. So their pelvis is dumped forward. Yeah. They have their butt sticking way out, and it's really hard for them to neutralize their pelvis. So if those that are listening could kind of think about like tucking your abs in almost,
it's like
tucking
tuck
your
your
pelvis.
tailbone.
Right.
Kind of.
Most people have a really hard time doing that. So I think you need to learn how to master that off the wall before you can even get on there and then like truly trust that position.
That's all with the assumption, like you said, that you have that hollow body position, because that's like the key to all of it. So nobody likes to do them, but doing your hollow body holds.
Yes. I'm terrible at them.
They suck.
I go back to the basics all the time because I realize like my core is super weak.
Like I know I can do some like crazy stuff with handstands.
Yeah.
I still shake like a leaf if I hold a hollow body hold for like close to a minute.
It's great. Well, I can't even do a minute. I'm like 10 seconds in. That's tough. But so I think a lot of that is just going back to the basics. Yeah. Even if you're really good, like high level performers in the sport of CrossFit or anywhere else, everyone's going back to the basics. Or if they're not, they should.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, that's what they were trying to tell everyone at the games too. It's like you just have to do the basic stuff and then get comfortable doing it and put your ego in check and just do it.
Yeah. One of the things you were talking about is just getting comfortable breathing. And I think I actually said this in one of the Why This videos that we make. It's a weekly video that we make for our online program. We put it out there, just kind of educating them on certain things that we're doing. But one of the things that's really important in the sport is learning how to breathe in all the positions that are tested. A squat pattern, overhead patterns, handstand positions, if you're on the pull-up bar. One thing I prescribe often would be like a handstand hold like that, and then different breathing variations where 1 week maybe it's box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 seconds out, 4 second hold through. Maybe sometimes it's like a 6 second inhale, no time in, and then 6 second exhale. I've changed all of these dynamics so people are learning how to breathe in that position. Yeah. Have you played around with any of that, or was it always just kind of like steady breathing?
Yes. And so like in yoga, I don't even remember all the names of things because they have like weird, Sanskrit names for all this stuff, but there's like different types of breathing.
Okay.
So I would do those things in handstands, but also like out of handstands. So like if I was sitting on the ground, there's a lot where you can like close one nostril, breathe in, and then close the other nostril, breathe out, and like changing where you're doing that. It like changes how your airflow kind of goes through, and you learn to actually breathe through both nostrils.
I would love to see you do that in the handstand.
Yeah,
one arm and then keep switching.
Just switch. I haven't mastered that one. So there's stuff like that. Like there's a lot of breathing drills. Like if you haven't taken the deep dive into that, just like Google it. There's so many different ways that you can breathe. I don't know how to like really describe it, but there's like this way of lengthening your inhale. So like learning how to take like a deep inhale for a really long period of time. So you're almost like closing part of your airway, and you're like, and you can breathe in for like close to 10, 20 seconds, and then hold it and breathe out. It's like, so I was doing that like shallow breathing, I guess is what you kind of call it, pretty often. And that I think helped with like the relaxation part of it, so that you're not tense. And I think that's misnomer with a lot of people with handstands is they think you have to be like super tense in your shoulders and your arms and everything. Really, if you do them right, your effort is like very minimal. Like you're basically just balancing on your bones. So like their bones are stacking on top of each other, and your muscles aren't really doing much work. Right. The only thing that really gets tired for me is like my forearms, because your fingers have to like hold you in place. But if you're on the wall, like, and you don't have to do that, you can just kind of hold for a really long time if you just like learn how to stack your body properly.
So you brought something up that's really interesting that I think most people in the sport don't think about. And it's the way that the fingers work in either a hold or in a walk or really anything that you're doing on your hands.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? And then what are the points of performance as far as like how much should my fingers be working? Is it my palm? Is it my fingers? Is it my legs doing work?
So a quick run through of the hands is like, and I think of the hands as like the most important part of your handstand. It's how you control where you are in space. It's how you control if you go forward, back, if you stay in one spot. Like it's all centered with the hands. Yeah, there you go. That's so you can clip
the hands.
The hands matter.
So really, I think about it as you want your weight in like your first forefinger knuckle. So it's like a little bit in your palm, but it's actually more towards the center line of your body.
Okay.
And then your fingertips are what is doing most of the work. So there's this like gap, and I call them spider fingers, which if you're on the video, you can kind of see, but if you're listening, sorry.
Just think like that second knuckle is up.
Yeah. So it's like, this is like a spider leg kind of. So your fingertips are there, your palm is down, but like this second knuckle is in the air. And that's how you can kind of like use your fingertips to constantly just be like controlling on the ground.
Yeah.
You can almost think of it like playing piano. Like you're just constantly going like that. And that's how you can control like staying in place. If you lean too far forward, you can push more into your fingers and lean back. If you're going too far back, you can lean forward and it gets your center line like more back to center. If you're trying to go forward, like you're trying a handstand walk, you can then just kind of use your fingers to control, making sure you're not like falling over yourself like a lot of people do when they learn handstands. And I think like just focusing on being able to like individually move your fingers can actually make a big difference.
Show me real quick to this camera right here for the people in the video. Do one hand where it's like what the newbie person would do.
Yeah.
And then the other hand showing what you were just talking about.
This would be like the new person. A lot of people go like flat palm.
I see this a
or
lot.
Fingers together or something like this where they're here. Or they hear the cue of like gripping the ground. So they're trying to do what I'm saying, but really it turns into this where you have like this tented position here. And what I'm trying to do is take your knuckles and push them in the ground there and then put your fingers on the ground.
Nice.
Like
okay, cool. Yeah, I like the piano reference.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you're playing the keys.
So what are some drills? Do you think about that when you're like doing a handstand hold? Are you playing around with your fingers or do you drill that with your athletes?
So I've kind of done somewhere, and I was just working with somebody here on it where you're kind of holding a handstand and then you do the piano key where you just push one finger, then the next, then the next, then the next. So you're just going down like that down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get an actual piano floor.
Like that would be so awesome.
Just play a song.
All right, you can't move to the next step until you can play Beethoven.
Oh God,
I would fail at that.
Yeah.
All right, Mary had a little lamb.
Yeah,
I could do that.
Better. So yeah, that's kind of how I'll put drills where you can kind of put a little more emphasis on that. These are the things that kind of we've talked about how it's hard to translate over programming, right? Because it's like so specific and it's so like you almost just want to like have the person in person where you can be like, this is what you do. And then it's like this green light goes off, but doing it over like a remote programming is really hard to do. So, I mean, we've talked about trying to make some
we are going to make some of those. We already have a plan for that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But
You're all a part of that. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. We'll definitely do some deep dive videos for everyone that's interested in that. And we'll put that out at some point. I think it's like, I always say this and I think people probably think I'm crazy, but I think the overhead position is the most important position in CrossFit. Yeah. A lot of people can get away with it still. Like you see some high level athletes, but fewer and fewer now. Yeah. And now with the bias in programming as it's changed, like you saw what happened with Bosman this year, if it's going to be a gymnastics heavy programming moving forward, it's going to matter even more. Like the squat pattern is so easy to get away with like bad ankle position or hip position by just moving your feet.
Yeah, squats you can
it.
Compensate a lot like with just other joints, but like with your overhead, it's like it's your shoulder.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. So you've got to figure it out,
you
right?
You just can't get away with it.
What about flaring your hands out? Like so I do see the flat palm, so what you were just talking about, or like a weird arch with maybe the top knuckle. What about is this an okay position if I flare out kind of like I flare my feet out in squat?
I view it in different ways depending on the movement you're doing.
Okay.
So I think if you're trying to walk or hold a static handstand, having them straight is going to be you're going to have a lot more control.
Sure.
So like it's just going to be easier to do over time. It's going to be harder at first because you have to get the wrist mobility to do it because that's the main reason most people go out. if you're doing like stuff on the wall where you're doing handstand push-ups, I think it's actually helpful because it changes the angle of your elbow joint. So like it flares your elbows out a little bit so it can make it easier to do the pressing. The only problem with that now is the wall facing handstand push-ups changes, and it forces you to have that like tight elbow position. So if you've only ever trained with the flared out, then it'll definitely feel a lot harder than if you've trained with it like tucked in.
So we likely need to be training athletes in both positions now to cover our bases.
Yeah, I think, from what I can tell, it seems like the tucked elbow position translates to the flared elbow position, but not the other way around.
Right.
So if you put most of your time in the tuck position, it'll...
Which one was the tucked? The wall facing?
Yeah, wall facing. When you have your elbows
straight fingers forward or fingers forward.
Yeah, fingers forward, having the elbows like come back towards the wall if you're doing wall facing, versus like having your elbows flared out on a kipping where you're kind of just moving through it, right? So yeah, that wall facing will translate to the other way, whereas the other one doesn't as much, which is why we saw a lot of people struggle.
For sure.
On those.
And really good athletes that can do probably 30 to 50 strict handstand push-ups unbroken that were failing on the wall facing. Mm-hmm. Part of that probably was judging standard. Like they were getting a lot of no reps, but the other part is
it's just a
totally
harder
different.
movement too.
For sure. So let's go back. You talked about the first step in a handstand would be you do your wall walk, tuck your chin, we're getting into a hollow position, learn how to breathe there. Now the person says, okay, I want to graduate to a freestanding handstand hold. What's the next step for them?
So I usually have people still start on the wall, but be a little bit further away. So rather than doing a wall walk like up to the wall, like that 10 inches away, you can do the wall walk to like maybe 3 feet away, where you can then get and this is really hard to tell without a video of basically someone showing it, but the whole point is to get your body stacked. So if your hands are further away from the wall, you're going to be diagonal, like leaning into the wall.
Right.
We need to get your hips over your hands so that you're in a straight line, and then you can still use your feet on the wall just as like a balance helper.
So for the listener, you're thinking my wrist, elbow, shoulder, and hip are all stacked. My feet are assisting on the wall.
Yeah, it's almost like an upside down L-sit.
Right.
So you're using your feet on the wall just as a balance help, and then you can slowly start to like lean away, and this is where like the hands come in big time, because if you lean and you aren't using your hands properly, you're just going to fall.
So, I've seen that.
Yeah, you just fall right over. So if you can kind of start to use those fingers to like push you back, you can then balance for a couple seconds, go back to the wall, balance for a couple seconds, go back to the wall. And it's just a long process, because it's like, I once heard somebody say that like for every hour you practice balancing translates to like a second of balancing.
Right.
So it's just like, it just takes a long time. And it's like, Abe Lincoln.
Long time ago.
Yeah, he was
Could you imagine he's just chilling in the White House doing handstand holds?
So yeah, it just takes a long time to build up, but I do promise that if you just continually do it, like you can spend, 5 to 10 minutes in your warm up every day doing it, and it'll get a lot better.
Hasn't Kyle Habdo been doing some sort of like every day I show up, I'm just doing some handstand something or other?
There are quite a few people on
staff. I don't know what he
did
did specifically, but Habdo's pretty good at him. I'll give him that.
Yeah, this is kind of going back to that first thing about the kipping problem, at least that I see. The same thing happens with handstands. In my opinion, for good athletes, the handstand walk is probably actually the easiest thing for them to do well. And it's not that they're in a good position. They just learn how to walk fast with sloppy mechanics.
Yeah, and you're just catching yourself from falling.
Right. And they're so strong. And
handstand walking was probably the hardest thing for me to learn, to be honest.
Because you were in such a good position.
Because I spent so long trying to learn how to stay in one spot.
Exactly.
That like actually moving my hands.
Wait, I gotta go. I gotta move.
It took a really long time.
Yeah. But in reality, though, it would be a better way for them to do it would be starting at the basics.
It was definitely easier for me to learn how to walk than it was for someone who knows how to walk to learn how to hold static.
Yeah. And just as far as health and longevity too, like a healthy shoulder girdle, healthy wrists, healthy elbows, all those things too. So now, go ahead, Chris.
Ask a question? When you look at like elite athletes who maybe aren't doing it handstand walking, and they're not doing it ideally, but they have their method and it works for them good. Do you ever look at them and think, man, if they cleaned it up, it'd be even better? Or is it like, nah, just let them rock the thing that they figured out?
I think there's different levels to it. Like, I think if you can get away with it and it's something that like let's say for example Noah, like he has pretty good positions, just like overhead and everything, and he's very good on his hands, so like he can go fast, he can generally do very well against the field. Fixing his position to make it like picture perfect probably isn't worth the time. Like it's just like he has other things that are way more important for him to like just focus on as a whole, versus somebody else who's like maybe they look like what Noah's position is, so it's like the same level, and they aren't performing quite as well in those positions, in the events that are like handstand walks, things like that, or they're having trouble falling over and stuff like that. Then yeah, I think it is important to like put in that time to just go back to basics and do it. I mean, I've been helping Max with one of his athletes, like just fix up positions a little bit. And it seems to be working pretty well, where we can just get into better positions, be more comfortable there. So it's easier to just translate into these higher level skills where you're like starting to do pirouettes, like when the ramps come out, when the parallettes come out and you have to do a press handstand. Like,
have you had a lot of practice getting people to undo stuff, or mostly just teaching new people how to start?
It's definitely harder to get people to undo stuff. It takes a little bit longer, because you're just so, especially when you're at that level, when you're like an elite, because you've probably been doing it for a very long time. When it's like a newer athlete and they've just have like positions, it's a little easier to just take them back to basics. But like when you're already like able to do hundreds of feet of handstand walking unbroken, then you're kind of like, one, it's hard to get buy-in because you're like, well, I already have this. Like, do I need to work on this? And then two, it's just like you've been doing it for so long, so it's harder to do. But it's still doable. You just kind of, I think the training just takes more thought, like thinking about how you're doing things, not just doing them.
Yeah.
Kind of.
The way that I answer that question usually just for the audience is I think about performance, impact, and then the importance. And what I mean by those is like, okay, what's the person's performance? And for Noah, he's a top 5 handstand walker in the sport. So his performance is already good. Should we change it? But then the next thing is how is his handstand position impacting the other movements that may come out? For him, it's not. He's not getting extra shoulder fatigue. He's not getting low back fatigue. His back's not blowing up. He can breathe in those positions. So that's already another positive check.
So by that, you mean that if his positions were messing up something down the line.
So what could happen for some people, they're like really good with handstand. They just figured out how to almost stumble, like James was talking about, but their shoulders still blow up. So then when they go over to, let's say, the wall and have to do a handstand push-up or do a kipping pull-up, they blow up for the next movement. For Noah, the impact is minimal. Like there's nothing there. Like he's still just elite level. And then importance is, if we did change it and it changed all the other percentages by 2 or 3%, is that important enough on the other things that he needs to work on? So in other words, like what are the lowest hanging fruit for Noah? And it's clearly not that. Like he is so good. And he's probably a bad example because he's already so
really
good. And his positions aren't bad.
Anybody else.
That is good though. I mean, there are elite level athletes that I see that are like, that person should probably unwind all of those issues, go back to the starting point and fix it. But it's definitely, like you said, way easier for someone that's new to just like start from the basics.
Yeah, you basically just have to weigh the time and effort put in versus like where we're actually trying to get with your performance.
Right.
Kind of, which is hard to do without a coach. So
as we go from the freestanding handstand hold, I know I'm jumping fast, but this is just so the audience can hear this, into the handstand walk. What's the next step for that athlete?
So I usually try to focus on a couple drills that basically just force you to get comfortable, like over kicking. So if you get comfortable holding a freestanding, even if it's just for like 5 to 10 seconds or something.
That's about where I'm at.
Yeah. So you can get to a point where your body knows how much to kick up, where you can like control yourself at a certain point. With handstand walking, you have to kick up further than that because you have to give yourself momentum to go forward. So getting used to that. So I usually have people go far enough away from the wall that you have space between you and the wall that like you can't just like touch it right away, but not so far that your feet won't just like fall and hit, and allowing yourself to like kick up and end up in like a back bend position almost, where you're like getting used to really kicking over and then slowly backing up so that you have to take 1 or 2 steps and then you hit the wall. And then you just kind of back that up as you go so that you can get comfortable kicking up, knowing that you have a little security with the wall there, and then eventually you can start to just take that away.
So are you trying to like almost force them into an exaggerated position?
Yeah.
Like too far over and then pull them back after
most
that?
people overcorrect themselves. Like they're afraid to go over because it feels like you're going to fall. So you kind of have to do it with that like security of knowing there's a wall there. It's not going to go anywhere.
Your feet will hit it and you'll stop. Yeah.
So once you get used to doing that and you can trust yourself and you can trust that like you can stop yourself even without the wall, then you can start to go away from the wall and actually start kicking up and going. I think people skip that first one a lot and they're just like, I want to learn how to handstand walk. And they just kick up in the middle of the wall, in the middle of the floor. And then it's just like fall until you maybe get 1 or 2 steps. And it's like a very slow process. Whereas if you go towards the wall, your brain just kind of adapts to it a little bit easier. And I think you can just learn it faster from what I've seen.
So once they have the ability, they trust themselves, they can get over. What are the cues that you would give or the points of performance for someone that wants to handstand walk well?
Yeah, I think the more important things are probably your position of your head is going to affect the rest of your body. So a lot of people have this position where they like are looking like
where they're
in
walking.
front of them.
Yeah.
So your eyes are like looking ahead. And what that does is it just pulls your whole core and your body like behind you. So it forces you to like just fall. Whereas if you can kind of get your head to look, I like to say between your thumbs. So like rather than looking ahead of you, you're just looking between your thumbs and you're kind of and it's again, the trust process of like getting your brain to trust yourself. And you can trust that you can just keep going and you know that you can hold yourself up.
Your friends will tell you if you're about to run into a trash
can. Or not. I've ran into stuff.
That was the joke.
Yeah.
It's just
many people have ran into things here.
Yeah.
It's just a lesson you got to learn.
Too many people on the gym floor. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the most common one that I see for newbies because they're afraid. And I get it. Like I've also tried to look up and it actually cost me a 2000 what year was it? 14 regionals. It was like an unbroken handstand walk as far as you could or whatever. And I looked up to see where the line was because I knew how far I needed to get into the top 10 of that event. And when I looked up, I fell. And I was like fully comfortable. My handstand walks have always been really good. And I was just like, why would I know that, but why would I do that? So it's definitely something that you just got to avoid.
Yeah, and it changes your whole shoulder girdle position. So it's like that's why it just affects the whole chain. It's kind of like we're talking about is like if you look forward, you're essentially giving yourself poor mobility. Like if somebody with bad overhead position kicked up, they would look the same as if you were looking forward. So if you can look properly between your thumbs, you're putting yourself in a better position that you just won't fall as often. Yeah.
We made a video for this during the Open, and I think the theme was if you look ahead, you fall behind. Essentially, like if you look up, you're going to fall, right? Yeah. And so make sure that I love the thumb line cue, like on your thumb line, that's where your eye line should be. And if you do that, at least you'll be relatively neutral. So what after that, what hips, what should your feet be doing? Anything there?
Yeah. So that's where with the sport, it's different than like, you know, your traditional like good position stuff because you don't need a perfect position to do a handstand walk in this sport, clearly. And I think actually having like what gymnasts would consider poor position is probably more helpful because I don't want to say get into the scorpion position because that implies like bad position, but if you let your legs kind of go over and you kind of let your feet carry you a little bit, it just gives you more weight on that side of your body. Because handstands are just purely a constant effort of trying to balance the two sides of like the scale. So like if you have more weight on one side, something on the other side needs to give to like make sure that it stays balanced. So if you let your feet kick over, you can then be carried forward easier versus if you're just like super straight upright. So I usually have people try to just bend at the knees first, rather than bending at the hips or like arching. I think that's the easiest way to just like have a good in between where you're in good position, but you still have that like feet carrying you over a little bit. So
yeah. So hips are still stacked or slightly pushed forward, and then you just are bending at the knees, and your feet then are kind of leading the way to give you a little bit more speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most athletes that you see that are at the high level, they still are scorpion. I mean, I would say it's not a great position.
No. It's definitely harder to breathe in that position as well because, like, again, it just puts you in this, like, overextended, your spine is extended. So it's hard to breathe and, like, control yourself in that position. So it's like if you can get just your knees bending, it's a little bit better.
Yeah. And you can still move pretty fast.
Yeah.
I find, though, that I like to have my knees even a little bit forward. But part of that is, like, my overhead position's so good that I can, like, still balance out. Most people, if they overarch in that position, then it's really hard to reach with their hands. You have to have really good shoulder flexion to do that.
Yeah. And you'll see a lot of different things. Like, I think I people just kind of fall into their natural thing. I think when I do handstand walks, I have like one leg bends and one leg stays straight. And it just happens sometimes.
I don't know what's going on.
Like,
Could you imagine if you did that like walking normal? Like one
just
side.
like,
Yeah. I guess some people are like that. Scoliosis, whatever. Side note. I want to move, kind of change directions real quick because this is something that I learned yesterday. That was really cool. Your dad is, he's a professional in some kind of
Tae Kwon Do.
Yeah.
Which is a martial art.
A martial art. But what is it called?
Tae Kwon Do.
Okay, I didn't know
So the martial art's called Tae Kwon Do. His
specialty
facility is Cheongdo Kwan.
Okay, that's what it was. And I heard, I need some video on this.
His facility is called Cheongdo Kwan.
Oh, facility.
Yeah. So
I heard that his special power is taking a watermelon and putting it on someone's stomach and then taking a sword and cutting through it without touching the person.
Yeah.
How is this possible?
He has done this many, many times.
Can you believe that?
Like, I have a picture of it. You want me to send
What kind
it
of
to
sword
you?
he got?
Like a samurai katana type sword.
Has he ever done this to you?
No, I refuse.
So you don't trust your dad?
He's done it to, I think he's done it to my brother. He's done it to my sister. He's done it to my brother's girlfriend. I don't want to do it. So you basically.
Has he ever messed up?
Not that I know of.
You would find out on the news.
So basically he learned how to do this. He like practiced on a punching bag. So you just lay a punching bag down and he would put a paper towel, like a wet paper towel on the punching bag and then a cucumber on the wet paper towel. And he would take the sword and he would chop it and he wouldn't practice on a person until he could do that without cutting the paper towel, basically. So it's like very hard to do. So the trick to it,
it's a sword.
So the trick to it is you have to like go straight down and straight up. You can't, if you like slice at all, that's where you're causing problems. So you have to like tap and come right back up immediately. Otherwise you're like,
but still, wouldn't it hit the person's stomach?
It does. It does. But that's where he's controlling it and stopping it at the right point to like just tap it, basically.
That is unbelievable to me. We have to have a video and post that at some point.
Meg made me find a picture. I don't know if I can send it to Chris right
definitely
now, but
need something linked to this.
How did this even come up?
I was just asking Meg. I was asking Meg for some interesting feedback from his family history, and she brought up his dad.
Watermelon tree.
Well, I mean, okay,
that's like a thing.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing ever.
How many watermelons has he done, you think?
I don't even know. It's like he does it at least once or twice
Does he ever switch it up and do like some other fruit?
So he's done the cucumber, but that's a lot harder because it's a lot smaller.
Yeah, I was going to say it's tiny.
But I don't know. I don't know if he's done anything else.
So how did he get into martial arts, and did you do that growing up?
Yeah, so he started as a kid. I don't know the story behind how he started, but he took over his instructor's business at like 18 or 19, like that's right out of high school.
His sensei?
And he's been running it ever since. So however long that is, like very long time, 30, 40 years. So he kind of just fell in love with it and started doing it. He's been an instructor locally. He's done it nationwide. He's been on like the U.S. team for competitions and stuff. Like he's just in it. My mom has done that too, actually. She was, they did like a pairs competition and they were on the U.S. team.
No way. That is really awesome.
So they did that, or they still do that, and that's kind of like his full-time gig.
That's relationship goals right there.
Yeah. Dang, did they meet that way?
No, but she started doing it after.
They met on Tinder back in the 60s, 70s.
Tae Kwon Do Tinder.
Not that old. He'll get mad at me if I say he's that old.
I just named it Dave.
But yeah, so
when your family does like wedding events, y'all definitely play the Kung Fu fighting song?
I don't know. I don't think so.
So were you like deep into that when you were a kid? Did you go to his place all the time?
He was never like the type of person that was like, you guys have to do this. But like we all just kind of
made you watch Three Ninjas?
I loved the Karate Kid. You know, as a kid, I loved watching that.
I bet.
But he kind of just like, we got into it. I think I started when I was like 3 or 4.
Man, that's
like,
so cool.
We just we were there all the time anyway. So we were just like, we just started doing it. And my brother still does it. He's an instructor as well.
Okay.
I did it up through maybe like middle school. So it was like 10 years at the time. I basically like got to the point where I got my black belt, and then I just kind of decided to do other stuff. and
There's
change
nowhere
it.
else for me to go.
And how does that
There
work?
was, and I was not looking to do it.
Do you like quote unquote always retain the black belt?
Yeah.
As like you could say that you're a black
People
belt.
still call me sir.
I didn't know if that was a thing. So what about
yeah.
the skills? Like, could you go in right now and still feel like you're refined, or no way?
Not really. No, I was just too young at that point.
Right.
I could like basic stuff, sure, but like my body probably doesn't move in that way anymore. Either like my hips aren't that flexible anymore. Because you got to have like a lot of like hip and leg flexibility, to like kick high and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I wonder then if that would, like, your CrossFit training would help you if you went back into that world, or do you feel like it's just completely different worlds?
Maybe if I tried to like compete in sparring or something like
just
that,
conditioning.
like where it's like, conditioning and like just the strength and the movement and just like being able to do that kind of stuff. But that wasn't like the majority of what I was doing. My dad kind of specializes on the other side where it's like the forms, which is like a technical thing.
Right.
It's almost like, I guess the closest thing I can think to compare it to sport-wise is like gymnastics, where you're being judged. It's not like a set like system of scoring. It's like you have people watching you and judging you, and
so it's like subjective scoring on how well the technique is.
Yes, basically. So that's where my dad specializes, and that's where kind of that's where he competes in, and that's what he has coached in and everything. So like that's where we always fell. So I think that to me carried over a lot to all my other things, because it was just like I was always just a mover and a technical kind of, I viewed things in a technical way. So going into handstands, that's how I did it. Going into CrossFit, that's kind of how I do it. So it's just kind of carried over that way. I don't know if it would carry over the other way though.
But that's such a good like almost base to have in this sport, because I think that, you know, again, my knock has always been like most people get in where we all want to work hard. We love the sport because it's like, man, that workout was really tough. And then we just think about building our capacity or strength, but we don't think about like all the basics, you know, and that's kind of what we were talking about with the handstands.
And it was definitely easier, I think, for me to just kind of like get into learning some new movements or whatever, and just kind of pick up new things quickly, all that kind of stuff.
And you're probably being more thoughtful. Wow, Chris, like that definitely picked up. Chris is over there dropping stuff. That
nothing to see here.
Chris said nothing to see here. I think that if you can start in a thoughtful way, it'll probably produce a longer, a healthier, and a more productive CrossFit career, or in any sport, like those that are actually thinking about the very basics. I know I keep saying that, but I just think that's so important for the average athlete when they're getting into the sport.
Yeah, I agree.
I also heard that you're a Disney fanatic. So, you know, everyone, as they meet a new coach introducing you, Meg told me that you know every single Disney song and movie. I doubt that that's true, because there's some new ones.
Every single one.
Oh, that's a letdown. Like, so now you backed it down, and now that's not even a fun fact. Like, so
no.
I know some Disney songs.
I'm pretty close, though. I would say I'm pretty close.
What do you not know?
Some of the newer ones.
That's what I was going to ask.
Okay, well, we don't count the newer ones.
Whoa. Elsa is great.
I know those.
Yeah.
Meh.
I'm saying newer, like in the last like 3 to 5
Okay, so
you have a daughter and a son, you probably wouldn't think Elsa was great.
I've watched Frozen
but that's
at least 50
point.
times legitimately.
If it was just you watching on your own without the joy of a kid watching it with you, I don't think you'd like it.
Okay, well then let me ask this. James, how many times have you watched Frozen?
Oh, I don't know. It's not above 10. It's like in the 5 probably.
But that's
range.
still a lot for not having a kid.
Can you rattle off your top 5?
Meg also loves that, so like I'll put that on her where she's the one who puts that one on.
All right, what's your favorite Disney movie?
That's a hard decision.
A favorite,
it's probably
just rattle off.
I probably
unlisted top 5.
I'm big in like the like 90s era of like Lion King.
What
Aladdin,
we grew up on for sure.
Yeah, all those ones. I would probably put Lion King up there as well.
Lion King.
You know that was stolen?
What do you mean?
Look into it.
Oh yeah. I've seen all that stuff.
No, I had
That's basically like a Japanese story that they just
conspiracy theory. Yeah.
And you know, a lot of those things are adapted from other books, but in this case, they didn't like give any tribute or pay royalties or anything.
Well, it was adapted from Shakespeare. No, like the story was a Shakespearean story, but then this got this extra, and it was actually an animation of lions like going through the same kind of story, and then
and then Disney picked.
Hey, we'll still take it. Your Japanese version didn't have Elton John Circle of Life in it. Come at me.
All right, Lion King. I actually would put that up there.
Yeah.
I love all the Toy Stories. I think they did a great job.
Big. From Aladdin, the newer side, I'm a big Moana guy. I like Moana.
Okay, we've watched Moana a couple times.
That's the one with The Rock, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Rock great song.
It is. That actually is pretty entertaining. Frozen. So we have a 4-year-old daughter, so obviously she's more she likes Moana too, but Frozen is definitely the movie of choice. But she, you say Lion King. She hated it the first time we turned it on. She's like, I'm not interested. And now we've watched it probably 5 times over the last 2 months. It's crazy, man.
Have you seen the greatest video on the internet? One of my top 5 YouTube videos is Google Kid Rock Lion King. And someone has edited the intro to Lion King with Ball with the Ball, and it times up perfect. Just do yourself a favor, type in Lion King Kid Rock and see what happens.
What do you think about the updated ones? Like they did the new Lion King or Jungle Book or some of those?
Some of them have been decent. Some of them are kind of whatever. Like I think they're fine. They're good, but they're basically just a shot for shot remake. So it's just kind of like you're watching the exact same movie.
It's cool in that sense. Like, they brought it to life.
It's like, you're not watching the same movie from 20 years ago, like over and over again. Yeah. But it's still
I haven't watched any of the remakes, so I didn't know that.
But I guess that's kind of carrying the tradition, because if you think about it, like
not
Pinocchio was a book. And then they brought it to a new media, which was cartoon. Now they're bringing it to a new media, which is actors.
So, which I heard that one was not that great.
Which one?
I haven't watched
Pinocchio?
Pinocchio.
Oh, it is out.
Yeah, it just came out
last
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw it. Like, it had 20% rating on Rotten Tomatoes from audience and critics. I was like, damn, that's how you know it sucks.
Here's a good conversation for you guys. I've found that the audience rating is what you have to trust. Yeah. These critics are, first of all, it's too political. Like, if there's anything left or right, that people
they're probably
just call
scared
it out.
for their jobs.
The problem is it's like a thing now where people like put social media campaigns to like just give horrible reviews. Like from
I'm sure the
audience.
opposite's true too.
But, they both are. Yeah. People either reviews. Like loving this. They love this movie before it's even come out, and they just like bomb it with good reviews, or the opposite. So you like can't trust reviews at all.
Fuck those
sites. Exactly.
You can look at them just to get your starting point, but
I agree,
because I've seen plenty that I liked that said it sucked, and vice versa.
I'm always the person where it's like, if you just had a good time watching it, then it's a good movie. Like you don't have to get in the weeds of it and like analyze all those things like people do. It's just like
no, I do that.
I agree.
I analyze everything.
I do sometimes, but like for the most part I try to just
I'm with you. I don't want to. Well, I did analyze Better Call Saul a lot, but other than that,
like TV show when it's like
that's a little bit different.
So okay, so you said Lion King. Did you give another in your top 5, or did we just move over to
Aladdin, Moana?
Okay,
I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't remember some of
Hercules
the old ones.
is a great
Hercules was one of my favorites growing up.
I've never watched
and that soundtrack.
You've never watched Hercules?
That's one I never watched.
That's a good.
Yeah,
bro, I had like lunch plates with Hercules on from McDonald's.
Oh man, yeah. The ones we watched growing up, it was Jungle Book, Lion King, Toy Story, the first one. Although that was a little.
You got to throw Tarzan in there just because of the Phil Collins music. So good.
Someone posted a Phil Collins Tarzan meme the other day. Was it Alexis?
I don't know.
Someone here, and it was Phil Collins playing a piano that was like catching on fire, and it said like, dude. It was something like, "Hey Phil, go in and like write a soundtrack for this movie about blah blah blah," and then it's him.
It was so
raging
good
on the piano.
It was such a good soundtrack.
All right, Chris, I have some really good, fun questions for James. I was going to leave for the end,
let's
but
jump into heck
go ahead.
Heck nah, real quick.
Oh,
give me
heck. Let's jump into Heck Yeah, Heck Nah, where I bring up some topical news from inside and outside of the community and get the reactions with the Heck Yeah, Heck Yeah, Heck Yeah, or maybe Heck No, Heck No, Heck No, Heck Yeah, Heck Yeah, Heck Yeah, Heck No, Heck No, Heck No. All right, so games placement.
By the way, hold on. Did you see people were hating on your heck yeah, heck nah intro?
They were hating.
I loved it.
You should hate on the fact that I was singing it.
Screw it.
I was just imagining.
No. They had a different hate. They were saying that because it was kind of like one of those flashy screens.
Okay.
And so they were probably just more so looking out for people who might have like.
I was just laughing because I was picturing you sitting in this room alone. Just
exactly.
That's totally that. It's funny. As I was watching it, I was like, if your immediate response after hearing that song isn't heck nah.
Sorry.
Anyway,
go ahead.
So our first one. Let's see here. Games placement qualifying you for off-season competitions. Heck yeah, heck nah. And by the way, I totally stole this from a poll from Morning Chalk Up.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Like basically getting invites.
Yeah. You down for it or not?
I see both sides, so this is hard, but I probably have to choose. You're going to make me choose.
Yep, you're making you choose.
As a blanket, if I have to choose, I would say heck nah, simply because I think there should always be an opportunity for new people to like qualify and get into the sport. So if you're going the full invitation route of like it's always the same people all the time, then I would say heck nah. I don't mind it though for like Rogue invites half the field and you qualify the other half or whatever. Like that's fine.
Yeah, I'll say heck yeah, but it's only a set number. So I would say it'd have to be like top 5 in both male, female, and that's it. Extending it out to like top 20, I don't think makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Second one. CrossFit Games eventually changing their team format to model Wodapalooza with teams of 3 males and teams of 3 females. Heck yeah or heck nah?
Would it still be an affiliate-based competition?
I guess at that point, no. But maybe. Mainly just the big change there being like instead of having the guy, girl team, it's now all guy team.
I'd like to see both. I mean, I think both are kind of fun to watch if you're into it.
Heck yeah,
so I'd say
nah.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. But you said for both.
I'd probably rather see the guys.
You're a politician over there.
You'd probably rather see what?
I'd probably rather see the teams of 3 guys and girls.
So the Wodapalooza style.
Yeah, I'm going to say heck yeah, and I would make a huge push to make that like the most entertaining thing in the sport. Team competition can be a lot of fun.
I think it would be really cool if they made, Wodapalooza basically is that like an off-season version of that where you can just have all the best athletes make teams and just for fun and just like see what they
Wodapalooza last year was so much fun to watch because there were some really good guys and girls there.
Yeah, so I made that, I put that on there because as Wodapalooza has built that and it's just been so fun to watch, it kind of leaves you wanting more when you go to the games. And it's on the other side of that coin, it is really cool that our sport in the team has the, guys and girls working together thing. But seeing the opposite version of it where it's like you get to watch the best guy teams against the best guy teams, the best girl teams against the best girl teams, that just was kind of more fun to me at least.
Just from
so I'd rather see that at the highest level too.
The challenge with guy-girl teams will always be that there's going to be a bottleneck on one side or the other. This year at the games, every single, except for Rich's team, the female side were bottlenecked and the guys didn't have to work very hard. That's just the reality. It's like the guys weren't tested at the games the same way as the girls were. And that's just
it's hard
maybe
to
it was a bad testing body. I don't know. I have not looked through the team testing enough, but I just know watching it that it's like these girls are bottlenecked, the guys are standing around waiting, then they go and they just crush something really fast. And that's not to say the girls are just as fit as the guys. It's just that when you test certain things,
when you have to mix them together.
Yes, it causes issues. And the other
I'd
thing
rather
too,
see Andrea and what's the other girl's name?
Taylor.
I'd rather see them two and someone else.
They would crush
teams of 3
they're
against the other best girls.
Exactly.
I mean, that's basically what they did at Wodapalooza, right? It was them and Haley against.
Yeah.
It was so much fun to watch. I'd rather see that at the games. But I guess that adds way more people to it.
Well, no, you just
way more.
I think it's going to take
heats.
time for like the team competition to like
branch off
to just like attract like the really big names. Like I feel like there has to be incentive for that.
Yeah.
Like Rich wants to go team, so he goes team, but he already did individual. Like people are going team after they finish individual, so it's like a secondary thing.
Yeah.
Versus like if you put some kind of big prize money or incentive into it, like maybe more people would just be like, I like team and just go team.
That's the thing is money will pull people in, right? We see this going on right now for those that follow the golf world with this Live Golf Tour. They are paying hundreds of millions of dollars for all these golfers, and all the best golfers are going over there. If CrossFit could actually make it an entertaining thing to watch, they could make more money, and by making more money, then you could pay your teams. And if it was 3 guys and 3 girls on separate fields and there was no mixed competition, it wouldn't add heats, Chris. It would actually make it faster. And the other thing too is that it would make it a lot better as far as barbells and ring height and pull-up bar. Yeah, all of that stuff. You don't have to worry about having 2 different bars out there, 2 different dumbbells, and all the mess that they have right now.
All right, you ready for the last one? Let's see here. All right. You start a new book, start to lose interest, find it harder and harder to get excited to pick it up, but keep plowing through so you can finish it. Heck yeah or heck nah?
Heck nah.
Heck no, yeah. That's an easy one for me. I've stopped so many books. I feel bad. I used to plow through it because I was like, if I have one, I have to finish it. Right. But then I'd be miserable, and then I wouldn't remember a thing from the book.
Yeah. It's not worth your time.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like a lot of people are in that boat that you just said where like with a book, you feel like you have to finish it, but rarely are people the same about a movie or a show. If instantly they're kind of, or not instantly, but if they're like, man, this ain't doing it for me, it's like they're not like, I got to finish all 8 seasons.
Yeah, it's just too much of a time commitment.
I
Don't
agree.
do that to yourself.
Yeah. I also haven't been reading as much. I've just been listening,
Yeah.
which is a bad, I need to get back to like true hardcover books.
Brandon, go ahead and go into your questions, and I'll pull up some we got from Instagram.
Oh,
All right, we have
nervous
10,
about
we have
these.
10 questions for James. We're going to
God.
rock through these. Just first thing that pops in your head. Don't stress about any
All
of
right.
it. This is a question I've asked a lot of people. If you could trade lives with anyone for one day, dead or alive, who would it be?
Trade lives. The Rock.
The Rock.
Just to see what that's like.
That would be a lot of fun. Chris, I actually never have heard your answer to that.
If I could trade lives?
Yeah, dead or alive, one day, who would it be?
I mean, if you're trading lives with someone dead, does that mean that you're just
man.
dead?
No. It's back in their time.
Okay.
You know?
I hate these questions because I feel like the answer I'm about to give you is not going to be the one
Yeah,
that if I thought about it that I would have wanted.
You would always change it, but it's fun off the top of your head.
Silence.
I'll let you think about it. All right, let's get back to it. James loves Disney movies, as we already talked about. So if you could be any Disney character, who would it be?
Oh. The genie.
The genie. I like that. I did not think you were going to say
freed.
that. Yeah, no, you're stuck. All right, so you're stuck somewhere and you can only eat one thing the rest of your life. What would it be?
Like ice cream or something.
Ice cream every day. I think mine would be steak. I'm going with
Steak.
like give me some red
Give
meat.
me the
that
steak
would
and a baked
get stuck
potato.
in my
No,
teeth
one
and I'd hate it.
thing. You don't get a meal. This is not your last
that's why
meal.
All right,
It's
well,
like
then ribeye for
Yeah,
sure.
ribeye. Or actually, I would go New York strip, a little less fatty.
No, but if it's the only thing you get to eat, you want some fat.
That's true.
And
You're
fat's
probably
the
right.
best part.
No, when you cut. If you go to a butcher and you cut your New York strip, you got to make sure that they have the fat cap on the
Yeah,
top.
but that fat is not
Are you
as good
bringing
as
a
the
butcher
fat
with
on a
you to
ribeye.
cut your
correct
meal every
yes.
day?
Ribeye fat's like butter. That's like
I don't know, man. I
Agree to
like
disagree.
it. You gotta cook it sous vide and then flame
Okay,
throw
maybe
it,
that
and
way,
that's
yeah.
really good. James is a pretty quiet and humble guy. What's the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you since you moved to TTT?
Oh. I don't know. I don't know if anything has happened yet.
we'll get there.
Nothing bad. Okay, so
I don't
I'll
know.
give a story back in the day. This was not a training think tank.
I thought you were going to tell a story about me.
No.
It's like, I forget.
I just popped in my head when I asked that question. A previous job, I was a strength and conditioning coach at a school, and we were on a text thread, and I was on a text thread with some of the football coaches talking about a plan that we had for that week. And then I started talking bad about one of the other guys, and he was on the text thread, and I didn't realize it. And so the other guy texted me separately and was like, dude, stop. I was like, oh, my God. And then I had to meet with
That's
that guy
pretty
later
bad.
in the day.
That's pretty bad.
It was so awkward.
Was it brutal?
No,
or
no,
was-
I wasn't being mean. I was just like, God, I wish he wasn't coming.
That's
Is that brutal? Yeah, maybe.
pretty
Okay.
mean.
Oh man.
I love the guy.
I
It just
definitely
was,
haven't done that yet.
I didn't want to have to deal with the situation that was going on. Anyhow. All right. Would you rather spend money on your dream home, if let's just say I just gave you a ton of money right now, or traveling the world for a year?
Ooh. Probably my dream home.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I could then travel after that.
You're a smart man. Yeah. Build some equity. All right. Some fast ones for you. Coffee or tea?
Neither. I don't drink coffee or tea.
No caffeine
Any
for you?
caffeine at all?
No.
Nothing? Okay.
Nothing.
If you had to choose one, do you like the taste of either?
No.
No, you're not a fan. Okay. All right. Are you a side, back, or belly sleeper?
Side, mostly.
Yeah. Same. Do you switch
Same
sides?
side?
I find the most comfort on my left side, and then sometimes I'll switch.
I've been switching a lot lately. I
Yeah.
used to always be right side, and now I'm trying to be like thoughtful about switching. I don't know if that's even.
Y'all
I
ever
usually
wake up in
fall
the middle of the
asleep.
night and do like a very violent flip to your other side? I do
Yeah.
that all the time.
Oh yeah,
I usually
I'll just
fall
grah,
asleep
like a
on my left
fucking-
side and wake up in some other position.
same. Yeah, it's crazy that you don't remember any of that. You just passed out and you're still moving. Sweet or salty? If you had to choose for food.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm a salty guy.
Salty.
All right, here's one that I actually want to hear Chris's on this. I think you've told me this before. Sunrise. Get up early in the morning, watch sunrise, or watch sunset.
Sunrise.
Sunrise. Chris.
Sunrise.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's so nice just to be able to sit outside.
Sunsets are cool. No shade.
Nobody's awake.
But
All right, last one. If you could have one superpower in line with your Lord of the Rings and Disney movies and all the things that you love, what would it be?
Ooh. I don't know. I just from like a cool standpoint, probably like like some kind of like fire or ice like control kind of thing.
Definitely
That'd be pretty cool.
Definitely a Disney
That'd be
movie guy.
Cool. Just to be able to just be like, here's some fire for you.
You want this fire? I actually think I'd want to know what people are thinking.
Though, but
I feel like
you would not.
Yeah, I don't want to read minds.
No, man. Think about how much power you would have.
Selectively, or you're just hearing.
Just think of how much
selectively. Like I could come. You could manipulate any. I know that sounds terrible, but if you wanted to take over the world and you knew
Brannen's psyche.
yeah, if you knew what other people were thinking, then you could manipulate them, right?
Yeah.
But who wants to take over? You want to take over the world?
I mean, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
I don't want that responsibility.
Fuck that.
Neither do I. All right, Chris, you got some other questions for us?
Yeah. So let's see. What's the name here? Rankin _CY. Who wins in the Open, Frodo or Han Solo?
Frodo, because he's got short levers.
Nice. Yeah, that's
a
logical way to think about it.
See, I love that.
How would Han do, though?
Probably not
wouldn't
that
follow
well.
the rules.
Yeah, he probably would not do well.
All right. Let's see. Where was the other question? GJ.Lake wants to know, how did you go about becoming a TTT coach?
So I signed up for the mentorship, which was about a year ago now. And I knew I wanted to kind of learn from Max, and he had done the mentorship the year before. So I was kind of, it was on my radar. And then when he came out with it, I signed up, I did it. And after, like, as I was signing up, he kind of put out that, like, this is also how he's going to be potentially hiring a few people. And
yeah, all new coaches have to go through that.
Yeah.
Prior.
Yeah. And he kind of said, like, at the beginning, make sure you do all your work, make sure it's on time, you know, make sure you're working well with your groups, like all that kind of stuff, so that he can kind of see our work, get feedback on us, all that. So I just tried to make sure I was keeping up with it on a regular basis. And then at the end of it, I mean, long story short, at the end of it, I just got on a call with Max, and he was like, hey, come do an interview, come on down and chat. So
what do you think about us when you finally came through the doors?
It was very odd. I mean, I've followed TTT for a long time, so it's like odd being like Brannen's in person versus like,
he was like, I hate that guy.
he was bigger than I thought and shorter than I thought. There you go. So yeah, I mean, it was odd, but everyone was super nice and inviting, and has been super. I mean, not just the coaches here, but like the whole on-site crew has just been like really awesome and welcoming. So
nice. Last one, Freakazoid 0331. What's the PR you're most proud of?
Most proud of?
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think my most fun PR is when I PR a snatch, and I like snatching a lot. So
what's your snatch PR?
I just hit 255.
Nice.
Here a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Let's go. Awesome.
Very
well,
cool.
James, thank you for coming
Do you
on,
have
my
spots
friend.
open right now?
I believe so. Yeah. I think a couple. We're taking people on slowly.
All right.
So.
You can just go to the trainingthinktank.com website. Do you say .com and then say website? Is
I don't know.
What you say?
Shoot an email to info@trainingthinktank.com, and we can get you set up too.
Yeah, absolutely. James, thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
Shaka bra.